Hi, my name is Daniel Carvente, and this is for my video for my SciComm project at UCI for my intro class of psychology. This video is going to be about stress and kind of it has relationship to illness and kind of how illness and stress are kind of not correlated but kind of connected, and obviously kind of like how prolonged stress is unhealthy in the long run and kind of how ways you can prevent this and like typical exercises. So basically, according to the American Psychology Association, that when stress starts to interfere with your ability to live a normal life for a long extended period of time, it becomes more dangerous. That the longer the stress lasts, the more the worse it is for your body, for your mind and your body, as you might feel fatigued and you're basically unable to concentrate. And then so when basically your body has high levels of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, it kind of can disrupt your immune system, causing you prone to more sicknesses and illnesses. Also basically cortisol and the fight or flight mode are kind of connected, since kind of cortisol is there to kind of give you this alertness, and so that prepping you for fight or fight. So basically having elevated levels of cortisol can really affect you. It might affect your sleeping schedule, that you're not able to get restful sleep. It basically doesn't really allow your body to kind of prep itself and kind of recover. You end up having like these things kind of like sleep debt, where you end up sleeping like in midday and then you continue to sleep, which you probably shouldn't. You maybe naps here and there, but that's probably at most. High levels of cortisol can basically have you at high risks of high blood pressure. One thing I forgot to mention is that there's a difference in cortisol. There are three types of it. There's one that's called acute stress, which is short term. Chronic stress, which I've been talking about earlier, is the long term stress. And then we have something called traumatic stress, which also ends up happening, in traumatic events. That basically, when you have high chronic, you have different symptoms, and same thing with low levels of symptoms. There are different symptoms you receive, right? For low levels of cortisol, you have, low levels are fatigue, under intentional weight loss, loss of appetite, and then low blood pressure. And then for obviously high cortisol levels, you have high blood pressure, you have high blood sugar, which is also a thing, muscle weaknesses for purple stretch marks or stretch marks in general. You end up gaining weight. You might not realize it, especially around the faces or in your stomach area, which is also a sign that you have high levels of high cortisol. Okay, so obviously I've talked about the negatives of stress, right? Kind of the signs that are a way that you might have stress and your body, you might not have it. Basically now we're talking about ways to reduce stress, right? Like more kind of ways to stay healthy, making sure you're not aging, because if you have stress, a lot of stress, you kind of typically tend to look like you age faster than others. So that's also kind of not really good, I guess, right? You want to be youthful as long as possible. Right? According to Harvard Health, basically ways to become, or I guess reduce your stress, just I guess be more active, right? Walking, doing your typical breathing exercises. When you kind of lower your heart rate, those tend to reduce your stress. Stretch your muscles, breaks between activities or work, especially, little breaks here and there are also good ways to kind of maintain yourself and kind of stuff like that. Just laugh a bit, creating good health, good, strong, I guess, support system, kind of like easing up and breaking off from work and from other things. Music, soothing music, you like your music, play it, why not? And then obviously, still according to Harvard Health, ways to reduce your cortisol are basically eating healthier, obviously, burn off tension, and obviously prioritize sleep. If you find yourself focus on a work and that it might be better to hold off of it, maybe if you might have to work on an extra day, that's okay, I would say, as long as you get a lot of sleep and more sleep, you end up reducing the cortisol hormone that's being produced. So that's also kind of good. And yeah, so those are ways to kind of reduce stress. Nice, sorry. Sorry. One last thing. There is a medication. You can talk to your doctors, and they can prescribe you something. This is just from personal experience. If obviously there's certain medications, I'll have them listed if I can find the proper names for them. There are medications you can be prescribed. So if you really need it, and you kind of maybe these things might not work. Breathing exercises or taking breaks might just not be sufficient enough. Talk to your doctors. They can prescribe you something, and it'll help out. So bye.